Hi everyone, I'm Elsa Zambrano and I'm a Senior Vice President and I'm privileged to lead the Talent and Culture team at NXP. NXP is in the semiconductor industry, and if you use your phone to pay for something, if you've got a smart car with smart brakes, or you might even have a personal health device that helps you read some of your vitals, there's a semiconductor chip in that, and NXP is probably part of it. We are in 30 countries. We have about 34,000 team members. We manufacture our chips in Europe, Asia, and the US, and we have engineers all around the world. I work and live in the US, where we have about 5,000 team members. So at our session, I'm going to talk about our culture journey. So I'd like to give you a little bit of a preview of what that discussion will be like. I want to talk specifically about how you align the culture with the business, and even more so, how you really narrow that down to, the business strategy, the P&L, the metrics that you use to measure your executive team. We've done a lot of work to make sure that there's alignment with all of that, so that it doesn't feel fragmented, so that culture doesn't become something on a poster, but that it's really lived by the organization. So I'll touch on how we attempted to do that. We, for example, we looked at, as a baseline, all of our people systems. Once we had our values squared away, once we had the purpose squared away, we really looked at all our people systems and asked if they were congruent with the words that we were using for our culture. Now, even before that, we worked with our executive team. That's the other key piece to the work that we did. We had to work with the executive team to really understand how they thought about a value. One of our values, for example, is collaboration. What do we mean? Is that plain nice? Does it mean more than that? Does it mean how you show up at meetings and how you partner with others? And we said, yes, it does. And even more so, how do you make other people feel welcome, give them a sense of belonging? Trust and respect is a foundation for us. So that's an example of how we took the values, the 5 that we have, and we really teased out with the CEO and his staff relative to what each of those values meant. And we defined behaviors. So I told you a little bit about collaboration, but we did the same thing for all 4 others, whether that was innovation or expertise as examples. We really walked through that executive team to understand what it meant for them. Because we wanted it to be real. It can be a little easy in our world of culture and human resources to get overly academic on this. But we wanted to make it real, and so we took the literal words that the executive team used and embedded that into what we used across the company. So back to the people systems, we had to then take all those new words, we had to take the meanings, and we replaced, for example, all of the lens that we used with performance management. We updated our learning systems to have those new values. We updated our reward systems for those values. So that actually was what I would call technical work, but it took a long time to do because you'd be, I'm sure, maybe not surprised that there's a lot of places where a lot of that wording is embedded. And so to get it all aligned was part 1 of what we were trying to do. And I call this the part of the awareness step in the journey of culture. There's awareness and sort of knowing what those values are. And then there's the next step, which is having an emotional connection. And then finally, a 3rd step, which is about how do you ignite advocacy in your leadership team to go really make those happen, come to life, and also just amplify what those are. So in the awareness piece, we looked at the people systems. We very intentionally kicked off some opportunities that we had. We had something that we called Growth Week, which was a week dedicated across the world to talk about learning and having a growth mindset. growth is one of our values, and we wanted to showcase, well, what do we mean? Well, we mean we invest in continuous learning and we commit to being that learner. So that was one way and one example that we try to tie in all of that language to actual, actions that would manifest themselves in a way that was visible throughout the whole company. So those are some examples of how we aligned it to then translating that into business strategy. Part of what we do is we say we want to win in the secure edge. And how do we do that? And we say our values guide us to go and make that happen. And so collaboration, for example, is really key for us when we think about our customers, when we think about our organizations across not only the world, but across functions and how we work together. So we really bring it into every strategy meeting and every town hall meeting that our CEO has across. We embed those values and those behaviors so that they know, the company, that everything about our strategy is connected to the way we work and therefore to our values, our behaviors, and how we show up for work. The other piece that I'd like to tell you about that was, we're proud of is how we measure what we set out to do. So we, for example, did a few things. Very much our engagement survey talked about how do you feel about the culture and the work that we're doing, and we were able to measure pre and post. But another piece of work that we did is what we call our culture index. We really wanted to give our CEO and our CHRO a one-page, here's the health of the organization. So we thought about it, and we wanted, of course, to embed the culture piece, the values piece, behaviors, and then, if you will, what represents those? Is that the engagement scores? Are those the number of referrals we get to work on our company? It's a lot of different things that we now measure, including our financial performance. What does our revenue look like? What does our gross margin look like? So that at a glance, the CHRO and the CEO can look at the health of the organization. So we do call that a culture index, and that's yet another way where we're trying to align everything. Finally, we also look at our bonus structure, and so we embedded how we incorporate our culture and our values into our bonus structure. So we have diversity as one of our key areas, but we also had learning relative to the values as one of the key areas. And so we measure that, and that is part of how everyone gets paid on their bonus. It's really been interesting because now we get really great questions from our team members on how they can impact that. So in a nutshell, it kind of tells you around how was the beginning of our journey, which is understanding our purpose, understanding our values. What does that look like in behaviors? Then we go into, well, how do we bring that to life? Updating all our people systems, even going to how do we measure that and how do we incorporate that into our strategies? And in the measurement component, finally, how do we reward that? So it has been a journey. I think this next year, we're definitely going to dive into how do we ignite advocacy? How do we really take role modeling into account when we're doing this work? So I hope that you have a great summary here of the work that we're doing. Some of the key takeaways for me in what now has been a 2-year project and journey is this does take time. Everybody will tell you that. It is true. It is a multi-year adventure. So I think prepare for that. It is understanding the business and how to enable the business. And your culture really is an enabler of that because it enables engagement, and engagement drives performance, as we all know. And so that's another key takeaway for me. The other piece is don't get so caught up in jargon and in being overly academic about the work that is embedded within culture. Removing jargon and making things more plain spoken, I think, speaks more and resonates more, especially if you have a global audience. Sometimes if you use jargon, it kind of gets lost along the way, what that meaning is. And that is at the heart. You always want to have that meaning and that purpose at the center of what you do. So that's a little bit of our culture journey and how we align it to our business and strategy and our P&L. and I really appreciate your time and attention and hope to talk to you more about it later. Thank you.